Yulu Ratzonim Rifi Vehegyon Libi Lefanecho Adonai Tzuri V'Goali. May this be a sanctification of the name of God. Hello, my name is Rabbi Yehuda Levin, and often I speak on behalf of the 850 plus members of the Rabbinical Alliance of America. Back at the end of December at a special gathering, I spoke in front of the Rabbinical Alliance, and the title of my talk was Romney is a Dangerous Homosexualist. You can find this on my website, RabbiLevin.com, as well as on YouTube. This is the second in a series of Romney is a Dangerous Homosexualist. This is being produced in late April, just several days before the New York and Pennsylvania primaries. We are now, we meaning cultural, social, but most importantly, religio-conservatives, people of faith in this country by the millions, have now been pushed into a Hobbesian choice: Obama or Romney. Obviously, Obama is not a choice for us. Do we now say the lesser of two evils and throw our support proactively to Romney? Do we even want Romney to win? I would suggest no. Everything is spiritual, and it seems that spiritually we just couldn't muster enough goodness to actually have a pro-family champion in the White House. If one is given the choice of two evils, and it's merely a question of how soon will the cultural wellsprings be poisoned, I would suggest spiritually that I should not lift my hand in testimony, so to speak, on behalf of either of these people. Let me tell you a little story. When George Pataki became governor in the mid-90s, he was elected as a Republican conservative. However, he started to shift his colors right after being elected and spoke about republicanism being a big tent, and we have to include the pro-abortion people and the pro-homosexual agenda people. He may have even supported partial birth abortion. When I heard about this, I contacted a gentleman by the name of Jeff Wiesenfeld, who was a high-ranking Jewish individual in the Pataki office. And I complained about how Pataki was betraying the conservative Republican principles upon which he was elected. To which Mr. Wiesenfeld responded, Rabbi Levin, this is not Arkansas. You need to have a moderate Republican. If not, you'll have Chuck Schumer or some other ultra-liberal as governor. To which I responded, I will take Chuck Schumer because for 3 long terms, we, the religious, decent people, Catholics, Jews, Protestants, etc., were a loyal opposition to Mario Coumo. And homosexual rights, quote-unquote, legislation never even passed throughout all of the Cuomo 12 years. However, once you have somebody who masquerades as a conservative, disarms people, and he starts to support the anti-God, anti-family values, then it breaks us completely. And this has been my policy the entire time. Now, I would like to suggest to you that the same thing applies with regard to Mitt Romney. Let me give you another story. A great pro-life and pro-family stalwart, Michael Schwartz, who was at one time, and maybe still is, a chief of staff for Senator Tom Coburn. Right after the senator was elected senator, I called Mr. Schwartz and I said, now it's a new president, George W. Bush, and a new senator, Tom Coburn, a strong conservative. Let him go in with all the new conservatives and some of the old ones, Senator Jim DeMint, etc., and let 5 or 10 of these conservatives of the Senate go into the president and make sure he prioritizes, really prioritizes, the family values. To which Mr. Schwartz laughed and said, Rabbi Levin, you know, you're not realistic. When they walk into the president, even if they're senators, even if there's a group of them, there's a certain amount of awe and they basically don't tell the president what to do. My dear friends, this was tremendously disappointing. And the only reason that I may be breaking a confidence by telling you this story is because if Obama is reelected and the Senate and the House are both Republican, there's going to be a tremendous loyal opposition on the part of Republicans as they move towards the midterm elections. And if they control both houses and they control the committee makeups and they put on conservatives, they could hold the fort in terms of negative appointments, cabinet appointments, and of course Supreme Court appointments, etc. And they will be a strong, loyal opposition. However, if Mr. Romney becomes president, then we will have the same situation that Michael Schwartz spoke of. And when Romney is a homosexualist who boldly declared on national TV at the end of December, the beginning of January, that he has appointed homosexuals to leading cabinet positions in his cabinet in Massachusetts and to positions of judge, and that he will continue to do so. And he stated boldly, if you don't want somebody who in effect is promoting gay rights, meaning the homosexual agenda, then you don't want me. We don't want you, Mr. Romney. He signaled clearly what he's doing. And therefore, it's not really a Hobbesian choice. We have to either vote for a third-party candidate who reflects our values, skip over voting for president, leave it blank, do a write-in. But we've got to send a spiritual message, not only to Romneys, not only to the Grover Norquists and the Ann Coulters and the Charles Krauthammers and others who call themselves conservatives, but have decided that the sodomy agenda is not something that is of concern to us conservatives, when it certainly is if we're people of religion. We've got to send, more importantly, a spiritual message to God that we still care and we trust in Him. The choice is really shekels, money, quote unquote, the economy, or God's morality. Because somebody masquerading as a conservative, as a religious person, as a family man, will be the titular head of the opposition, will do far more damage than Obama will do. I would advise the following. If you're in a blue state and in terms of election, there's no reason for you to, quote unquote, send a message by voting for somebody who is religio-culturally very bad. I might even say he supports the Amalekite evil agenda, because our sources tell us that Amalek were homosexuals that raped the Jewish people who came out of the cloud of protection and then hurled their genitalia up at God to say, you want holiness of reproduction here. And that's what this agenda represents, and that's why we're fighting it. And that's why we see the tremendous homosexualization of society. And that's why we see, in part, of course, that is one of the reasons, based on our traditional sources, that natural disasters occur, and they're occurring worldwide with ever-increasing frequency, including in the United States. I'm not trying to win friends and influence people here. I'm trying to be loyal to God. So if you're in a blue state, an election day, it's totally beyond the pale of why you shouldn't use, like in New York or in California, etc. It's totally beyond the pale as to why you should consider voting for Romney. Send better a message to God. Write in somebody with family values or vote for somebody with family values. But even in the primaries, it's important to do the same thing. Now we move on to two people who have a tremendous responsibility. If they represent anything, truly, they have a responsibility not just to offer their support to Romney as good Republicans. First, be good God loyalists. We're talking about Newt Gingrich, who once or twice did criticize Romney on his pro-homosexual agenda stances, and Santorum, who did it only once or twice in the campaign. Let me say this to Mr. Gingrich and especially to Mr. Santorum. Sir, if you go along with Romney and cut any sort of deal of support, even tepid support, if you campaign for him or the ticket, without first insisting that he totally reverse this anti-God homosexual agenda of his, which is lifelong, and I don't even see how he can do this. Sir, you're not only betraying the millions who supported you because of religious conservatism, religious family social conservatism, but much more important, you're betraying God. Mr. Santorum, you still have a job to do in this election. You should speak out. You can turn this thing. Now is the time to put the pressure on Romney. And he should have to sign on the dotted line. The same applies to the Babe Buchanans and the Reverend Rob Shanks and all the other, so far, until now, stalwart conservatives who have decided to be very optimistic on their ability to change Mr. Romney. The time to effectuate the change and get the commitment is now. If not, you're also betraying our people, and I say this as friends, but you're betraying our people, you're betraying our God, and the time is now. Focus on the family. How does Tom Minery get on an interview and say that he's pretty good on social issues? Merely because he's opposed to homosexual marriage, even though he supported everything else? Amy Contrada, remember that name, has a 600-plus page annotated books. 600 pages describing how over 2 decades Mr. Romney has betrayed the family, betrayed the values of his own church, time and time again, promising in a letter that he would outdo Ted Kennedy in his support of the homosexual agenda. Mr. Romney kept the promise. I just want to say as follows. I want to appeal to WorldNet Daily, to Joseph Farah and Mr. Unruh and others who have until now courageously put the thing out there like it is. Do not change. At least allow the people to know the facts. Do not just say, as a prominent conservative did, okay, it's Romney versus Obama, let the race begin. No, 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 it's too more important. It's too more important. This may be the last stand. Look at what's been happening in the last elections. God has been sending us a message. It's almost by a few hundred or a few thousand votes in one state. God is showing us a tipping point, and we've managed to limp on and on. God showed us by the fact that Santorum got as far as he did. It was clearly because of the religio social conservative values of family. Everybody talks about how Romney has had a pro-life conversion. I frankly don't trust that. He did tremendous, tremendous damage, but nobody could even talk about his conversion when it comes to the whole homosexual agenda, homosexuals in the military, the gay youth proclamations that he made, homosexual adoption, forcing out the Catholic Church, and on and on. Go to mass resistance. See their site. See the documentation. This is a last stand. Now I want to finally appeal to most conservative religious leaders. Most of us are over 50. That means we're much closer to standing in front of God on our individual judgment day than we are to the day we were born. Shouldn't we be thinking about our spiritual legacy? Shouldn't we be thinking not about kowtowing for political rectitude, but more important, to be loyal to God and his values? Please, you can help out by passing around this message and disseminating it as widely as possible to your email lists. We need to get this message out to millions of people. It is unconscionable that conservative leaders from Focus on the Family and others can be tiptoeing around the fact that Romney is a dangerous homosexualist with a 2-decade record. It's one of two things. Either they don't know the truth and they haven't vetted him and they haven't done research and it's not hard to find, in which case they don't deserve the millions of dollars that they're receiving from religio conservatives who depend on them. Or worse still, they've decided to compromise because they want to be connected and they want to be on the inside. These compromises have never helped us in the past. Let me tell you a final story, and this is going to upset a lot of people, but I'm sorry. I was around during the Reagan White House. I was involved not only for 30 years, starting in 1979, speaking at the March for Life, but also leading the pro-family, Jewish traditional Torah approach, opposing the homosexual agenda. and I had much interchange with the Reagan White House. I want to remind you that when Ronald Reagan promised that he was going to be a pro-life president, etc., despite what he did in California, and everybody accepted him, let me remind you that his first appointment to the Supreme Court was Sandra Day O'Connor, who did a lot of damage and who helped keep Roe versus Wade functioning. And it was only after that, after the people came out and protested against Reagan, that his second choice, I don't recall who it was a pro-life person on the Supreme Court. The point is, let's not rewrite history. Let's understand millions and millions of babies. I have great respect for Ronald Reagan, and he did many good things. But we have to understand millions and millions of babies were not defended and were eliminated by the choice that Ronald Reagan made for Supreme Court. Romney will appoint somebody who is strictly pro-life and is a homosexualist. He'll find one of those. And who's going to stop him? The time to stop him is now. I can better survive as a religious Jew, as a loyal opposition, than, God forbid, having Romney disarm everyone because he's the president, and then the Republican leadership in the Senate and the House on social issues go into a full-fledged hibernation for the next 2 to 4 years or more. This is Rabbi Yehuda Levin. God bless you. Spread the word. This could be our last stand.